Barbara.
I'm Cheryl.
And I'm Naima. We're three Black moms.
A wise son makes a father glad, but a foolish son is a sorrow to his mother. Now, Proverbs tells us that a wise son will make a glad father, but a foolish son despises his mother. They will bring shame if they do bad things, but they will bring happiness to their parents when they do good things. Now, there are a couple of stories. I was thinking about this most recent verdict that we have all been watching and kind of just shaking our heads, rolling our eyes. And in the scripture, there actually was a couple of mothers who were instrumental in their kids' criminal behavior. First of all, you have Rebecca, who conspired with her son Jacob to fool their father so that he could get the blessing. And she was the one who came up with the idea to go out and bring me a goat, and I'll cook it and make it taste really good, like it's something that your brother Esau did. And then your father will give you the blessing. And that little incident actually came back on Rebecca later, because when Jacob's brother was really angry enough to kill him for doing this to him and stealing the blessing, they were estranged from each other for many years, and Rebecca died and never saw her son alive again. And then we have that other mother, Herodias, who was really upset with John the Baptist. And after her daughter did that dance for the king and said, "I'll give you anything you ask for," Herodias told her daughter, "Get me John the Baptist's head on a platter." So here were some moms that were involved in their own children's criminal behavior. And I remember back in the Columbine shooting, the parents had no idea that their kids were in their rooms building bombs. So the question is this: how responsible is a mother toward her contributing to her own child's criminal or violent behavior? Sisters, what do you think?
Well, I'll start because I read Eric Klebold's mother's book, and she was very angry. She was angry at her child. She loves her son, who died by suicide after the Columbine shooting. He was one of the shooters. But she, as much as she loved her son, she was still really angry. And she didn't recognize the videos that he had taken with all this anger and this hate. So I feel and I felt nothing but empathy and sadness for her. And then we have Kyle Rittenhouse's mother, who willfully contributed to the homicide, because we can't call it murder because legally he got off. But she contributed to the homicide and grievous injury by taking her son, who had nothing to do with Kenosha, Wisconsin, across state lines with a gun that he should not have had. It was illegal for him to have it because he was 17 years old. He was a minor child. And I felt like not only was justice denied in this case, but it was denied because she should have also been up on felony charges. They should both be serving time in prison even as we speak, because she contributed to this. How many mothers are there out there who are they have no idea when their children are doing something violent and they're just as shocked and hurt. I feel empathy for them. I feel no empathy for someone who contributes and helps her child commit what should have been ruled murder.
Yeah, I tend to think that as a mother, you should always know what your child is doing. I feel bad, as you said, the Columbine killers, their parents shouldn't have been as clueless as they were. But sometimes parents get too caught up in their own lives to pay attention to the signs that their children have some emotional disturbances. But in this case, you have a very distinct philosophy. Now, this is a family living in Southern Illinois. We already got a case in Southern Illinois. We already have some evidence that Southern Illinois is very heavily influenced by Klan kinds of philosophies. We've had a very heartbreaking story of the mother of Jelani Day, who turned up missing, a graduate student at the Illinois State University in Normal, Illinois. And then suddenly his body is found and the police trying to say it was a suicide. And it was clear it's a homicide. And having gone down there several times with those who have been standing with the family, I know that there is a philosophy in that area of the country, Southern Illinois, just as bad as Mississippi, a lot of hostility, a lot of white supremacist kinds of thoughts, attitudes. So with Kyle Rittenhouse coming from that area and Confederate flags flying all over the place, so him believing that he had a right as a 17-year-old boy going to Kenosha, Wisconsin to try to intimidate or shoot up some rioters who were protesting a act of violence against a Black man by police and a very highly racially charged city. Well, obviously, this was a philosophy that was supported by his parents. So when you have parents that are imbalanced themselves when it comes to understanding justice and right behavior, then that's what you see enacted in the children. So as you said, I don't see any empathy or compassion for the mother of this now man. He's 18 now, but he knew exactly what he was doing, and his mother knew what he was doing, and those who gave him the gun knew what he was doing. Now in the trial, it was said that an older friend gave him the gun, which he thought he was legal to use if he went hunting. Well, what were you hunting in Kenosha?
Several different
people who support Black people. Who were you hunting?
Yeah. And that was my question as well. I feel that, well, number one, you have a broken home. I did a little bit. I hadn't really been following this trial, just, whatever they said on the news clip for like 5 seconds. And what I read, there were a couple of reports. There was one that said his mother actually drove him to the place and dropped him off. Then there was another that said he went with a friend and she didn't know where he was or what he was doing. But they do have evidence that she posed in a picture with him with the Proud Boys. And so somehow she can't be completely clueless of the kind of thoughts and behaviors and followings that her son has. I mean, you can't always claim ignorance of these things. And I feel like when you don't have a father in the home, then that influence is gone. She was a single mom who, worked, I don't know, maybe she had 2 jobs, but she was definitely full-time, exhausted, tired, all these things. I feel that this was really a tough thing, because when I talked with different friends of mine and said, "What did you think about that verdict?" It was like, "What did you expect?"
Exactly.
But that's
And
bad.
I'll
That
tell
tells us
you,
something about our nation, doesn't it?
yes, it does. And I'll tell you several thoughts I had on this. The judge obviously wanted this person to get off by not allowing the people who were killed to be called victims,
Mm-hmm.
which I was told recently, very recently today, in fact, that actually is not unusual. I was told that by an ADA today. But the fact that they were allowed to be called arsonists or rioters, and they did the thing because, let's be clear, all the people involved here were white. And
Yeah.
let's be clear that they did that thing that they do to us, is
Right.
that they villainized the victims,
Right.
that they showed that they had felony records. And it didn't make
Mhm.
any difference because he did not know that they had felony records
Right.
at the time he was shooting. And he claimed he was going there to be a medic and
And
there,
protect property.
yes,
Wait, at
yes, and that's
17,
the thing.
how professional a medic is he at 17? Hadn't
He
finished high
didn't
school.
have any training. He didn't even have a Band-Aid with him. And the thing
What
is,
kind of medic was he
yeah,
gonna
so
be?
what kind of medic? But the thing is that this just goes to show that, and this is the reason why we have such a broken system, because people want to protect property, which I don't care if you burn it to a ground, you can still rebuild. If I
Right.
lost everything in my house today, I would be devastated. But if I lost someone in this house that would be hurt by a fire, those are irreplaceable. People
Yes.
are irreplaceable. Buildings can always be replaced. What building was it in France that just went up, the was that Notre Dame?
Yeah, yeah.
And and that was devastating, but you know what they're doing? They're rebuilding it. They're
Mhm.
rebuilding it. And this is what we need to stop saying, that property is more important
Than
than
people's
people.
lives. Right, right. Yeah,
It
that
is not. I don't care. And he had no, he wasn't invited there.
right.
He
He
didn't
had no
own
business there.
anything there. He
Right.
didn't know anybody. Even maybe he knew
They,
somebody
they
who owned
claimed
something.
they claim his father lived there, but I haven't seen his father yet, in terms of them saying, yeah, here's his father saying, well, I called him to come help me. I didn't see any of that.
You
Well,
know what? If you're going to help somebody with their property, you bring plywood and a hammer, and you board up the windows, and
Yeah.
that's about
yeah.
it. And
How
if
much
it
hammer you
burns,
gonna do with a rifle?
yes, if it burns up, it burns up. But he
Yeah.
also, the people that he shot, he did not see them
The
doing.
judge said, I didn't want any high profile pastors in the courtroom.
Oh, that's a no. That's a different case.
Yeah, that's
Oh.
that's the
That's Ahmaud Arbery
Ahmaud
case.
Arbery case.
Oh,
Yeah.
you're right. I'm mixing.
Yes.
I'm ranting so much. I'm mixing up all of my.
No, don't get all your white supremacists mixed up.
Well, somebody has this cartoon with the judge from the Ahmaud Arbery case and the judge from the Kyle Rittenhouse case giving each other a high five. That was a cartoon somebody had posted.
And
So
that's not, and you know what? And that's not even fair, because the judge in the Ahmaud Arbery case shot this guy down and told him what he was saying was reprehensible.
Yeah.
yeah,
So
and
that's
I
not
guess
even fair.
I guess the assumption is that there's going to be the same kinds of bias, but you have to give them time and see what actually happens in the outcome. But it's interesting, at the same time these cases are going on, we really are getting a very close-up look at the mindset in America and certain places in America. But I think when it comes down to
moms and
standards
their
of behavior,
influence.
and we are expected to be the moral influence in our children. If we don't have any morals, then where is the country going to go? Where is the world going to go? If the women don't have a commitment to steering their child toward higher human ideals, where are they going to come from? So like the examples that Barbara gave at the beginning, you know, you had you had mothers that did some bad things. So what is the outcome if your mother exposes you to skinhead or Ku Klux Klan or white supremacist or Nazi kinds of philosophies? What's the outcome? And how is that going to benefit humanity? And at what point do we hold each other accountable for how we steer our children? Because like Cheryl said, I think the women need to be doing some time.
Well, I have to also say this, is that as a teacher, when I have brought up things about certain kids' behavior to the parents, they are extremely defensive of their kid. And I'm not talking about, high school children that are acting out. I'm talking about younger children in grammar school where you can kind of turn misbehavior in a different direction. But if you have a parent that is so defensive that they cannot see that their child is acting out in a way they need to address,
you froze.
They bought your child. I see them every day. I see them all day, and I'm going to bring to you some areas I think you need to talk about. And you're busy saying, oh, they're not like that. And I don't believe you and blah, 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 blah. And, well, this happened yesterday. And so if a person is not willing to even accept that their child has some areas that need to be looked at, you're going to have a parent that is going to be clueless when their behavior escalates. Their misbehavior escalates.
Well, this is the thing. I remember a few years ago, I had a friend who had this problem with one of her sons, and she was told by the school that he had been acting out in class. And so she did what any responsible mother did. She paid a visit to the class without him being there. And she saw how he was acting.
Yeah.
She did not automatically say, oh, you all are prejudiced or you're this or that. She wanted to see for herself. Turns out, I think this was the son that is kind of on the autism spectrum. So then she could see for herself, okay, this child needs help, and she could work to get the help that he needed. But this is the thing. If you're so busy saying, oh, no, they're not doing anything wrong, or worse, who do you think have birthed all these white supremacists? They didn't come hatched. They are learning this hatred at home.
In the home.
The way they used to say the hand that rocks the cradle controls the vote. That is also the hand that rocks the cradle. Also is the hand that teaches moral irresponsibility as well as responsibility. They teach hatred as well as love. The parents who say, well, I didn't see this happen. Okay, there's a chance where when you get to be a teenager, your kid always disengages. It is up to you to re-engage. But if you have somebody who's suddenly, blowing up stuff in their garage, or you have a parent that's saying, look, I gave up on that kid long time ago, you are still morally responsible for what
you gave up. Yeah, because who's supposed to fix them if you don't?
Yes, these are your children. If you can't do it, you find someone who can. You do whatever you can. But some of them are part of the problem, or they are the problem. Kyle Rittenhouse, this was not a one-off. He had a history of bullying behavior.
Yes.
He had a history of violence that was not allowed to be
presented in the court.
Presented in court. He, and the prosecution was stymied in how they could portray the victims who were dead, who were not there to speak for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And the media was very lazy in this, in their own way of not telling these people's story as human beings who were there to protest racial injustice in their town.
Yes.
And one of them, one of the men who was shot, yes, he attacked this boy. He attacked him because he saw him shoot someone in the head, and he went after him with a skateboard, which is all he had. But he was the hero here. Now I can't grab a gun, go to your place, and then when you retaliate because I have provoked things and I have started shooting, and then now I'm scared because it got out of hand. Now I'm going to call self-defense. Kyle Rittenhouse should have been home. He and his mother should now both be in jail.
So that's Wendy Rittenhouse is his mother. Wendy Rittenhouse is his mother, and she's
just a little older than Lavinia. I'm really surprised at how young she is.
She's a young mother, which I mean, that's not to say that young mothers don't have wisdom, but obviously whatever her influence was, this is what came out of her son. And as you said, bullying behavior that wasn't allowed in the courtroom. So obviously, I mean, somebody that's 17-year-old gonna go across state lines to hunt down some people. What's happening in that home? Let's be real. Whatever was influencing him, your mother is your first influence. And yeah, I am holding her responsible, because if I've raised a child and I know that what I allow my child to
get away with at a young age.
Yeah, I know that's going to set the stage for who they become. And it is my responsibility if I see that they're bullying children, or if they're torturing animals, whatever those signs it is that somebody's got some hate and violence in them, it's my responsibility to get them help before they become an adult or someone old enough to commit murder. It is my responsibility.
And let us not also dismiss the fact that this was white privilege at work, because there are mothers who have gone to jail for enrolling their children in the wrong,
in a decent school, but it was
wrong,
in a different
district and school.
Yeah,
you know, they have gone to jail for that. We have a woman who was sentenced to 5 years because she voted, because she didn't realize that she couldn't vote. The vote, she went and did a provisional, she did a provisional ballot, and it didn't even count, and she's still doing time. Yet you have a woman who takes her child across state lines with a gun that he is not legally allowed to carry, who murders 2 people and grievously injures a third, and she's like not held responsible at all. You know, that, like I said, this is part of white privilege, and it does not help that people say, well, there's 2 sides to this story, and the GOP has embraced them, and some of the retrobates and that party have decided, oh yeah, they're going to give him an internship. Well, good luck, because you know what? When he terrorizes some other young woman or some other person, you're responsible for that too. And you know, this is part of white privilege and white supremacy, that they will excuse any kind of reprehensible behavior because they are so afraid of a Black and brown and Asian and indigenous planet. Guess what? It's going to happen anyway.
It's already here.
We are in the global majority.
Yes.
We are not minorities. We are in the global majority. Get over it.
And I have to say, and I can't think of her name right now, but I remember she was a famous teacher who did that experiment on racial.
Yes, I know what you're talking about. It will come to me.
And one of the things she said when she asked in one of her,
are you talking about Dr. Jane Elliott?
Yes.
Yes.
And she asked
Brown eyes, blue eyes.
Would you want to trade places with a Black person? And then and nobody raised their hand because nobody wants to get that unequal treatment.
They knew.
Now,
and that's exactly what she said. You know, you've always known.
It's like that thing that Michelle Alexander said when she said, we know and don't know at the same time, which is a weird paradox. It's like you hide the truth from yourself because the truth is really ugly. Now, I will say this one thing about a parent at one of the schools I taught at who was concerned about her son, and she was not happy with not only his behavior, but his lack of being involved in the class and doing his work. And she threatened him with coming to school and sitting by him. And she says, I'm not going to go back to work until I see some improvement. And she showed up. She was there for, I would like to say, a week and a half every day, sitting right next to him. Now, this is middle school, so you know how embarrassing that is to have your mother sitting next to you in the classroom and other people in the back kind of snickering that your mom's there. But you know what? After a week and a half of that child straightened up.
Oh, yeah. See, and that's the kind of responsibility that mothers have to take. If you're going to realize that your child is creating a problem for a teacher, you need to be there in that classroom and you need to correct that behavior. That's the job of a mother. And that's what I used to tell parents all the time when I was teaching and we had to have these parent conferences. I said, look, my job is to teach. Your job is to prepare them for learn by preparing them to conduct themselves appropriately in the classroom. I'm not trying to do your job. You need to do your job. If I have to spend time doing your job in the classroom, that means I'm neglecting my job to all the other students. So if we got to keep focusing on your child, then you need to come in the classroom and you need to get them in order. Now, if they got to take off work and do that, you can believe whatever they had to do, they got that child's behavior.
You're going to straighten up quick because they can't be missing work on you, on your foolishness.
Right. Mm-hmm. But I really think that at the end of the day, when we see how this trial turned out and we see the attitudes,
disappointment.
Well, it just comes down to us taking responsibility whenever we can, however we can. We know the judge in the case. He comes up for re-election. There has to be enough people who are right-minded to decide he doesn't need to be behind the bench. He doesn't need to be deciding cases. If we fail to remove people who don't have justice in their hearts, well, then that's what we're going to keep seeing is injustice. But we have to do what we have to do. And then there are also going to be some people who talk about, well, how do we make a mark in terms of maybe economic boycotts or whatever of those who supported that verdict or that mindset. But whatever the case, the people who know what is right have to come together and strategically end the control of those who continue to perpetuate what's wrong.
You know, those are some very true words. And we have an election coming up here in Florida. I got these little emails, from both parties. Oh, support, blah, 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 for this, that, and the other. And I think people are not aware, not that they should not write these things off. You know, people are upset when you have some kind of ruling that is completely a miscarriage of justice. And they go, where do we get these judges? Where do we get these people? Well, we put them in office. And then you forget what these people have done or not done. And so you can't even vote responsibly like you should. And I really get upset with people who, oh, I ain't voting because it ain't going to make no difference. It makes a difference locally a lot better than you think. And if you are not aware of the changes, you can even see it with, is your garbage getting picked up? You know, are your parks getting cleaned? You know, is the bus coming on time?
You know what? If it didn't matter, if it didn't make the difference, if it didn't make a difference, they wouldn't try so hard to keep us from voting.
Well, we got a response from Eric Bemin who says it's the jury who decides the verdict, not the judge. That's true. But then we did see a lot of the things that the judge did to make it easier for the jury to come up with a verdict that really didn't reflect the severity of the crime committed.
Yes, and
we gotta go. But let's do a part 2. We're gonna come right back after this. And if you're watching us live on Facebook, feel free to write in your comments. We will come back with part 2 on this discussion and get your thoughts on whether you think that there are adults, parents, and even members of the criminal justice system that are responsible for what some are calling a miscarriage of justice. Well, it's time to go. And we will be back in just a moment with part 2. I'm Naima.
I'm Cheryl.
I'm Barbara. We are 3 Black moms.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hi, I'm Barbara.
I'm Cheryl.
And I'm Naima. We're 3 Black moms.